Just recently I was reading an article, and it was kind of filled with a lot of stuff that I was really bored with. I was actually watching baseball on the MLB channel, and then I caught this phrase that really struck me, and I want to share it with you today because I immediately thought that it would be helpful for you. And the phrase said, with this person who was the author, they were saying, when they were present with me in my suffering, it made me less afraid of myself. And it really struck me because early on, I'll tell you, I was terrified of myself. I mean, let's face it, I had ruined my life in many ways. Everything around me was crashing and burning. Every day that went by after disclosure, there was more crashing and burning, from relationships that I had had from 10 to 15 years, to finances, to certain assets that we had, to the reputation that we had built, to the impact that we had made with a large sea of people. I mean, every day there was a new nuclear explosion and we were losing more and more. Eventually we lost our house, thousands of dollars, had to relocate. I mean, I'm sure you get my drift. And I was terrified of myself. And then, to make matters really worse, we really received some very bad counseling. That made me even more afraid of myself. It made Samantha more afraid of me. And I think you have to understand that as an unfaithful spouse, I think a lot of unfaithful spouses will cop to this and admit to it. Some of them won't, and I get it. But if you're listening and you're an unfaithful, I think at some level we are afraid of ourselves. And unfaithful, it's important that you hear this, because as the cows came home, if you will, as D-Day happened, and as all the consequences started to spill into my life and in my heart, I was terrified at who I had become. I was absolutely afraid of myself and the bad help, if you will, the lack of proper care, and then the shaming by so many people, by so many relationships, and pastors who were supposed to be helping absolutely shamed the hell out of me. I mean, I was terrified of myself, and it was leading me to a greater sense of fear and worry and hopelessness. It's at this point that I want to give you the typical disclaimer that I always do. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm not asking for you, the betrayed, to feel sorry for the unfaithful. We've unfortunately done what we've done, and we have to feel the consequences because that's how we learn and that's how we sober up. But I want to explain to you that some of you betrayed reach out and say, you know, there's just this aloofness, there's just this darkness, there's just this numbness that seems to follow my unfaithful spouse. And I will tell you, yes, I felt that. I was coming to grips with what I had done. And there is this process where you start to put two and two together like a little bit of a toddler, and you start to wake up to who you had become. And I was waking up to who and what I had become. I was sobering up, and if you've ever been around a drunk, sobering up takes time. It doesn't just happen. You give a drunk coffee, they're just a wide awake drunk. There is a sobering up process that I had to go through, and as I was going through that sobering up process, I started to become more and more afraid of myself because of the really bad help, of the really shame-infilled counseling that we were getting, to all the things that were transpiring. I was becoming more and more afraid of myself. You see, the right help will make you less afraid of yourself. Not because the right help is telling you, well, it's okay what you've done, and you know, poor you, and anybody would have cheated in that situation. That's all ridiculous. But the right help will make you less afraid of yourself because of a few reasons. One, you're willing to confront yourself. Two, you can normalize the pain and realize that you're probably not the worst situation out there, and that if you subscribe to faith, God isn't done with you, or that there's still life ahead of you. The right help will normalize things so that you can begin to really become aware with the fact that there is hope, and that regardless of whether or not your marriage can be saved, you've got to pursue hope and you've got to pursue recovery work for you. If you're just doing this for your kids or you're just doing this for your spouse, it's probably not going to last, because as soon as those things become fragile or appear to not be for you, you're going to turn on yourself. But when you're doing it for the right reason, which is doing it to get you healthy because you know you have to get healthy because you've got to do this for you, then you're committed to it and you start using the language of commitment. Now, there is this truth that I hate what I'm capable of becoming. Rick will tell you that he hates the fact that apart from Jesus or apart from his recovery protocol, he's a human wrecking ball, and I am the same. Apart from God's grace, apart from the standards of recovery that we have implemented in my life, I hate who I know I can become. I hate who I am at some level when I'm really tired, really hungry, or really frustrated. But self-hatred never really helped anybody. Self-loathing isn't going to help your recovery. Being afraid of yourself is not going to help your recovery. Being afraid of yourself really reveals the fact that you haven't gone deep enough to know who you are, know what you're capable of, and still forgive yourself. If you are afraid of yourself today, or think you might be afraid of yourself, on whatever side of infidelity you're on, here's a few things that I think will be very helpful. Because it's okay that you're afraid of yourself. You probably should be, because it reveals the fact that you haven't really done enough recovery work to be able to understand why you do the things that you do or feel the things that you feel. So number one, it's okay if you're afraid of yourself. It's normal. That's what reveals the fact that you're really going to have to do some recovery work. You probably are afraid of yourself because of the uncertainty of what's surrounding you. Maybe it's childhood issues. Maybe it's trauma from the infidelity, trauma from molestation or rape or something that happened when you were younger. Maybe it's trauma from an accident. But at the end of the day, if you're afraid of yourself, it's okay. It's what you do now as a result of being afraid of yourself that really makes all the difference in the world. Number two, if you're afraid of yourself, it's time to slowly but surely turn and actually face yourself. One of the best pieces of information I received early on, and I mean within about a week of D-Day, is one of my other mentors said to me, it's time that you confront the things that you've been unwilling to confront for several months and years. It's time that you confront yourself, and if you're going to spend these next 2 days with me, I'm going to spend a lot of time helping you confront yourself and confront the beast within you. And number three, if you're going to confront yourself, you're going to need expert help. And you're going to need the right help that isn't going to shame you or condemn you and tell you things that aren't necessarily true or explain away the infidelity. Or even if you're a betrayed spouse, the right help is not going to shame you for your reactions, but help you understand what is problematic in your reactions and help you understand what is redemptive in your actions. So it's all about getting the right help. If you can get the right people, then you can get the right process. And if you can get the right people in the right process, you're probably going to find the best outcome for your situation, because the process is going to bring about an ending that is not just happenstance, is not just one day you got angry and pulled the ripcord, or one day you got angry and said, okay, I'm done. But the right process commits to going through the different stages that you're going to have to go through to arrive at an outcome that you can say, you know what, I did it right. I did it the way and the best way that I possibly could. We got some of the best help that was out there. So you know what? I can embrace what is coming my way. I can turn my face towards the sun, if you will, and be warmed by the fire of my own peace internally, that I did what I thought was best, and I'm willing to embrace the outcome that has come my way. It is nobody's fault but my own. I am willing to embrace this and move forward in recovery. Becoming less afraid of yourself will change your life. Being willing to confront yourself will absolutely change your life and change your marriage if there still is one. Being less afraid of yourself, identifies the fact that you probably have the right people, you probably have the right process, and you have been willing to go to the dark place inside of you. Not to shame yourself, not to condemn yourself, but to find healing and ultimately to find hope.